Welcome in. Today we're tackling a comparison.
Oh, this is going to be good.
That might seem a little unusual at first. Ancient Rome and the United States.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to be tracing their journeys from their, beginnings to periods of immense power
Right.
to see what they reveal about the relationship between republics and empires.
Now you like it.
Can a republic truly become an empire without,
The big questions.
without compromising its core values? Let's find out.
All right. I'm ready. Yep.
So it's fascinating. And it's striking how both Rome and the U.S. began with a deep commitment to Republican ideals, right?
Yeah. Shared governance,
That-
citizen participation.
It's like they both
They were society.
looked at the old model of monarchy and said, we are going to try something different this time.
Right. Like, we've learned our lesson.
Yeah,
We're going to try it this way. But
Then you have this almost accidental empire
Yeah.
emerging in Rome. They weren't initially setting out to conquer the world, were they?
No, not in a some grand scheme. It's just It's fascinating how it just kind of
It's like, oops, we're an empire now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Well, their system, ironically enough, kind of made expansion almost inevitable.
Yeah.
You have this constant rotation of leaders, each wanting to make their mark, build a monument to themselves.
Right?
And what better way than to come home with, stories of conquest and
Yeah.
bringing home the glory. So conquest became a bit of a feedback loop.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how that expansion played out in their rhetoric, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They weren't exactly calling themselves the Roman Empire right from the get-go.
No.
They were clinging to this image of themselves as this republic, even as they were conquering these vast territories.
It's interesting because they weren't fans of that term empire initially. It had a negative connotation. You think of the Greeks and the Persians, right? That kind of dynamic, Rome wanted to see itself as different. So even when they were engaging in these massive conflicts like the Punic Wars with Carthage,
Right.
which, by the way, these were huge. I mean, they were fighting for control of the Western Mediterranean.
Right.
It was about dominance,
Wow.
but they never wanted to be seen as the aggressor, you see.
Okay, so how do they spin that?
They framed it as self-defense. We're a republic, they'd say, protecting our interests, not some power-hungry empire.
Protecting their interests.
Yes. It reminds me, and this is going to sound strange, but it reminds me of the U.S. and the idea of manifest destiny,
Oh, interesting connection.
This belief in spreading liberty, expanding westward.
Right, westward expansion.
But, and there's always a but, right?
Right.
It came at a cost. It often came at the expense of indigenous populations.
Yeah, and that's a whole other
Other
conversation and a whole other,
can of worms.
a whole other set of deep dives that we should do for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, it does cast a different light
Yeah, because
on this whole notion of righteous expansion.
Right, because whose liberty are we talking about, right? Whose freedom? Because for every story of expansion and progress, there's another side to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit on a crucial point. This tension that exists when you use the language of freedom to justify actions that actually, limit the freedom of others.
Right.
It's a contradiction. We see it time and time again. Look at Rome's conquest of Gaul, for example. They brought Roman law, Roman infrastructure, Roman culture.
Which some might say that's a good thing.
On the surface, yeah.
Yeah.
But how did they achieve that? Through brutal military campaigns, it resulted in the subjugation of the Gaulish people.
Right. So it's progress, but at what cost?
Exactly. And that's the question
Right.
both Rome and the U.S. grappled with. How do you reconcile these Republican ideals with the realities of expansion?
Right. It's like holding on to two opposing ideas at the same time.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is, yeah, for sure.
And this tension, this push and pull, it's a recurring theme.
Okay.
We see it again and again in the stories of both civilizations. And it shapes everything.
Yeah.
Their internal dynamics, how they grow, how they evolve. For Rome, this strain, this pressure on their system, it became more and more evident as their territory expanded. They were bursting at the seams in a way.
Like trying to stretch a small town government to encompass an entire continent. Something's got to give.
Exactly. And it did. There were pressure points, cracks in the foundation that began to show.
So what were some of those pressure points for the Roman Republic as it grew? What were some of the cracks in the foundation that started to show?
Well, for one, the very system designed to prevent tyranny, the sharing of power, it became vulnerable
Vulnerable too?
to exploitation. As
Okay.
the empire expanded, with it came wealth, resources.
Sure,
And
yeah.
this influx, this constant influx of wealth and resources, it led to massive wealth disparities.
Okay.
Yeah, the Roman elites, particularly those, connected to the military campaigns. Right.
Amassing these huge fortunes.
Right, right.
Meanwhile, the average Roman citizen,
Yeah, what are they doing?
they're struggling, just trying to make ends meet.
Right.
And this growing gap between the haves and the have-nots, it fueled social unrest,
Sure.
political instability.
It's like that old saying, right?
Which one?
The spoils of war often end up concentrated in the hands of a few.
Bingo. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And in Rome, this economic disparity, it had a direct impact on their political system.
Oh, really? Okay, so how did that play out?
Well, you start to see figures like the Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius,
Okay.
emerging in the late 2nd century BC.
Okay.
They were champions of the people. They pushed for land reforms.
Okay, so trying to redistribute some of that wealth.
Exactly. Trying to level the playing field a bit.
Right, make it a bit more fair.
Yeah, but their efforts, let's just say, they weren't exactly welcomed with open arms by the Roman elite.
So what happened?
Let's just say it didn't end well for them.
Yeah, they were assassinated.
Wow. Talk about a power struggle.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah, no kidding.
Those in power, they were about to give up their privileges without a fight.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about wealth either, right? I mean, didn't the Roman army also play a role in this whole power shift?
Oh, absolutely. As Rome's military might grew, so too did the influence of its generals.
Yeah, you can see how that would happen.
Take Gaius Marius, for example.
Okay.
He reformed the army,
Okay.
made it more professional, opened up opportunities for soldiers from the lower classes.
Well, that sounds like a good thing, right? More opportunities for the people?
It was a double-edged sword. While it created a more meritocratic system,
Okay.
it also shifted loyalty.
How so?
It shifted loyalty away from the Roman state
Okay.
and toward these individual commanders.
Oh, so it became less about serving Rome and more about serving your general.
Exactly. And that's a dangerous game to play.
Right, because those generals start to get ideas.
Oh, yeah. Ideas about power, about ambition. Generals like Marius and later Lucius Cornelius Sulla, they used their armies to gain political power.
Okay, so the very thing, the army that was supposed to protect the Republic,
Became a weapon against him.
yeah, it's a cautionary tale, isn't it?
It is. It reminds me of, and this might seem like a bit of a jump, but it reminds me of when President Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex in the U.S.
Oh, interesting connection. You see some parallels there.
I do. See, Eisenhower, he was worried about this unchecked influence of a powerful military intertwined with private industries that profit from war.
Right.
And he argued that this complex, this network, could end up putting its own interests ahead of the nation's interests.
Wow.
And it's a concern that hasn't gone away.
Yeah, I mean, we still talk about things like military spending and the role of defense contractors.
Exactly. It's a debate that continues to this day.
It really highlights the importance of this delicate balance of power, right? Like this constant negotiation between different factions and different interests. It's essential for a healthy republic, wouldn't you say?
100%. It's all about finding that sweet spot, that equilibrium.
Yeah.
But how do you prevent that balance from tipping too far in one direction or the other?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that both the Roman Republic and the United States, they've both grappled with this throughout their histories.
Absolutely. And it requires, well, it requires a lot. A commitment to the common good, a willingness to compromise,
Yeah.
and a vigilant citizenry, people who are engaged, who hold their leaders accountable.
Right.
It's a team effort, really.
It
It's
is.
about everyone playing their part.
It's interesting that you mentioned the idea of a common good there. It reminds me of a story, a classic folktale, actually. The Bundle of Sticks. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I think so. It's about unity.
Exactly. It's about a father who has these sons, and they're always fighting with each other.
Oh, brothers.
Right. So the father, he's understandably concerned, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to teach them a lesson about the importance of sticking together, so to speak.
I like it.
So he presents them with a bundle of sticks, right?
Okay.
And he challenges each son to try to break the bundle.
All right. I'm seeing where this is going.
So they try, they strain, they struggle.
Oh.
But the bundle, It holds strong.
Mhm.
It's only when the father unties the bundle, hands each son a single stick.
That they can break them easily.
Exactly. And the message is so clear.
Oh, it's crystal clear.
Mhm.
Strength in unity.
Right.
Divided, you're weak, but together,
You're strong.
you're unbreakable.
And I think that message, that's what lies at the heart of a successful republic.
And a stable empire, you could argue.
Right. When they feel a sense of shared purpose, a belief in a common good, something that's bigger than themselves, that's when you have the foundation for a truly strong and enduring society.
Couldn't agree more. And conversely, when that unity starts to fade, when factions arise, when self-interest takes precedence over the common good,
What happens?
that's when the cracks start to appear.
The bundle starts to weaken.
Exactly. And eventually, well, it falls apart. And I think both the Romans and the Americans, in different ways, they both learned this the hard way.
And it really makes you wonder, what are those threads that hold us together?
It's a question worth asking,
Yeah.
especially when you consider what happened to Rome.
Because their decline is usually blamed on a bunch of different things.
Right. It wasn't just one thing.
Yeah.
A perfect storm, you could say. And a lot of it goes back to that loss of unity we were talking about.
Right, like that erosion of their shared purpose, their common good.
Exactly. You have this widening gap between the rich and the poor.
Right, and that always causes problems.
It creates instability.
Yeah.
And then you have these ambitious generals using their armies for their own gain.
Which obviously weakens the state, right?
Exactly. It's like they're chipping away at the foundations.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, the Roman people themselves were becoming disillusioned.
Oh, so they're losing faith in the system.
They'd lost that sense of shared identity, that sense of purpose.
It's like the bundle of sticks coming undone stick by stick.
Until the whole thing collapses.
It's a powerful image.
It is. And it's tempting to draw parallels between Rome's fall and what's happening in the U.S. today.
Yeah, I can see that.
But we need to be careful.
Right, because history doesn't repeat itself exactly.
Exactly. It's more complex than that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't learn from it.
So we should be looking for those echoes, those patterns.
Right. Those underlying principles that hold true across time and cultures.
So what are some of those principles, those warnings from the Roman Republic?
Well, the dangers of unchecked power, for one.
Okay, that's a big one.
And rising inequality.
Yeah, we've seen how destructive that can be.
And let's not forget the importance of civic virtue.
Right, citizens who are engaged, who care about the common good.
Exactly. These are all themes that resonate today, not just in the U.S., but globally.
So it's less about predicting a specific outcome.
Right.
And more about understanding how these forces, these dynamics, can lead to instability.
Exactly. History gives us this incredible database of information.
Like a giant experiment in governance.
With all the successes and failures laid out for us to analyze.
Right. Learn from their mistakes, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the key takeaways is this. The line between a republic and an empire.
Yeah. It can get blurry.
It's not always so clear-cut.
Right. And we see that with both Rome and the U.S.
Two nations founded on republican ideals, but both grappling with what it means to wield immense power.
Right. That's the challenge. How to balance individual liberty with the demands of a powerful state.
And how to ensure that everyone benefits from expansion and prosperity.
Yeah, those are questions that every society, every generation has to wrestle with.
And there's no easy solutions.
Definitely not.
But by engaging in open and honest dialogue, by learning from both the past and the present.
Yeah, maybe we can create a better future.
A more just and equitable future.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the Roman Forum to the halls of Congress.
Quite a journey.
It really is amazing how two civilizations, separated by centuries, can offer such valuable insights.
It goes to show, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's for sure. We're still grappling with those same fundamental questions about power, freedom, and how to build a better society.
And if there's one thing we can learn from both the Romans and the Americans, it's the importance of unity.
That shared purpose, that sense of a common good.
Because that's where our true strength lies.
It's what allows us to overcome our differences and face those challenges together.
And ultimately, it's what allows us to build a future worthy of our highest ideals.
Beautifully said. And on that note, a huge thank you to our listener for joining us on this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
We hope this sparked your curiosity, got you thinking, maybe even inspired you to learn more.
That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning from the incredible story of human history.